Okay, so split quotes. It says when one sentence has a quote that is split by explanatory words, it is called a split quote. So our explanatory words are now going to be in the middle of the sentence. Alright, so they're going to split the quote in half. It says each rule tells you how to punctuate a specific part of the sample sentence below. Before you begin, read the sample sentence. So we still have the exact same sample sentence. Now our explanatory words are in the middle. So go ahead and highlight those. The boys and I, my dad said, are going hunting on Friday with BJ Moss. So they took the exact same sentence, didn't change the sentence up, just moved the explanatory words to the middle where it fit the best. We could have even said the boys and I are going hunting, my dad said, on Friday with BJ Moss. We can put it in a couple of different places. You can, as long as it's kind of a good stopping spot. You don't want to just throw it.
Between BJ and Moss.
Most places could go. It could go in probably anywhere. Pretty good.
The boys and I are going hunting on Friday with BJ Moss, my dad said.
That would be an ending quote. So we've got to have it in the middle somewhere. Somewhere before the quote ends, it has to go. Okay, so right here it says to underline the middle explanatory words. So we're still going to highlight our explanatory words every single time we see them. So right here they have bold, put it in bold for us. So that rule is not ever going to go away. Rule number 2, for the first part of the split quote, so this is kind of like it's acting as a beginning quote because this part of the quote is in the beginning of the sentence. Place quotation marks at the beginning and end of the first part of what is said. So everything that is not highlighted now is quotation marks. Okay, so now it says to, let's find it down here. So we're going to put quotation marks around what is being said. Just like we did with the beginning quote. So without this at the end, if I cover this up, I really have a beginning quote, right? Except for it's a partial sentence, it's a fragment.
Are we allowed to use highlighters and dark?
Yes, you can. Okay, so right there we have our beginning quote because we also have our comma here. We're never going to use an exclamation mark or a question mark in the split quote at the beginning right here because we're not done with our sentence yet. Okay, this is not even a complete sentence, so we wouldn't put a question mark there. Y'all see that? So it's going to be a comma. Alright, the second part of the sentence, it says quotation marks are placed at the beginning and end of what is said in the simple sentence below. So now we're going to put exclamation marks around the rest of the sentence. Here is where we can, this is like the end quote. My dad said, are going hunting on Friday with BJ Moss. It's not a complete sentence without this, but the rule follows the ending quote rule. Okay, so here we can put an exclamation mark, a question mark, or a period at the end, just like we did with our ending quote. The only difference in the split quote is at the beginning we can't put it there because we're not done with our sentence now that we're throwing that explanatory word right in the middle of it. Okay. Alright, next we're going to check for capitals again. So each part of the quote here is going to start with a capital because that's really the beginning of our quotation mark. This one is not starting a new sentence, so we don't have to capitalize this part of the quote. It's the middle of the sentence. Okay, so we're not going to throw a capital in this one. So rules change just a little bit for a split quote. This still is part of this sentence, so we're not going to begin a new sentence here. We can, and I'll show you how in another way. If we had a complete sentence here and put a period, we could start another quote here and still have a split quote, and I'll show you that next time. It's getting kind of complicated if we do that. So we don't need to capitalize since that is part of that sentence.
Okay.
Okay? Alright. Then we're going to check all those pronouns and proper nouns again. And then we're going to go back and check our punctuation. Make sure that I've put my comma to separate my explanatory words. Make sure I have my periods with my abbreviations. And make sure I've ended with punctuation. The correct punctuation. Okay. So then we have a new formula down here, a little lengthier than our last one. that's where we're going to take our note card again. This one is split quotes. Okay, so we're once again going to start with a capital letter, and this is our first part of our quote. We're going to follow that first part with a comma only because we're not done with that sentence yet. We're going to end that quote so we can say our explanatory words. Then I'm going to pick up where I left off. We're going to also have a comma after the explanatory words. So we're going to have a comma before the explanatory words and after the explanatory words to set them apart. Then we're going to start our second part of our quote. And then we can add a period, question, exclamation, and inner quotation marks. So really the first part is like a beginning quote. The second part is like an ending quote. The only difference is now we're going to have a comma here instead of a period or, a question mark or exclamation mark. Okay. So let's take our simple sentence that we just came up with. The boy bounced the ball. And let's make it a little longer so that way we can split. The boy bounced the ball
Really hot.
really high. Okay, so we're going to do it just like we do a beginning quote. We're going to write part of it here. Where is a good stopping spot in that sentence? The boy bounced the ball
Very hot.
and then very high. Okay, so we're going to write the boy bounced the ball. And I'm going to leave room there for my explanatory words. And I'm going to put very high at the end. Statement, question, exclamation. Okay, so I'm going to put a period at the end. I'll go ahead and end my sentence. Okay, what explanatory words do we want to use this time, Hudson? Then we'd have to change it to exclamation mark. Okay, what do we have to put around our explanatory words to separate it? Commas. So we're going to put a comma here and a comma here. Okay. Next rule is where we're going to put our quotation marks. So everything that is not highlighted is quotated. So we're going to put quotation marks here and at the end, but remember that comma has to go inside the quotation marks. Then here and here.
Is that a word? Oh my God.
Quotated. So pretty simple. If you're creating your sentence, it's pretty simple to make. We've just got to put them in the middle and make sure we put the commas surrounding it. The explanatory words this time. If you follow these rules, it should be a pretty simple process to make. Okay, then we're going to check capitals. Remember, we need to begin the sentence with a capital. We have a proper noun here. We do not begin this one with a capital this time because the sentence is part of that sentence. Then we're going to go back and check punctuation, make sure that we have our commas surrounding our explanatory words, and make sure we use the correct punctuation at the end. Okay? So the steps are exactly the same for every quote that you make. Alright, so now I want you to try to create one. I'm going to use this exact same one to create a question and an exclamation mark. Okay? So think of a little longer of a sentence this time. so that way you have somewhere to throw those explanatory words in the middle. If it's too short, then it's kind of hard to throw them in the middle of it.
Do we have to put our name on this one, or are we voting it in?
We're going to go ahead. And when I went back and double checked, I had a period instead of question mark. So it's good to make sure that you always go back and check your punctuation, because I did have to change mine. So my second sentence would be, is the boy, Tommy queried, bouncing the ball very high? And then this one, look at the boy, Tommy yelled, bouncing the ball. So you can use that same sentence to create your.
Like, you want us to do Christmas?
You can if you want to practice it. So you can kind of get the feel. The only thing that is changing is the punctuation at the end. You're always going to have that comma here.